Welcome to Week 9 of Prospect Basketball Weekly, sponsored by Buffalo Wild Wings. I'm your host, Paul Evers, and once again, I am joined by Coach Carmodella. Coach, thanks for joining us.
Nice to be back, Paul.
So last week you guys took on Elk Grove and Niles North. First, starting with that Elk Grove game, it was your last MSL East road matchup for this year.
Yep.
You guys were able to come away with a commanding victory. How was it to get that last East victory before taking on Hershey this Friday?
It was great. You know, the guys were very focused. It was another back-to-back weekend where we had both Elk Grove and Niles North. And, you know, there was a stretch there in the third quarter. Elk Grove was playing at tempo. You know, they got an early lead. And our guys, we called the timeout, and we were tied at 29. And by the beginning of the fourth quarter, we had 54. So it was a great chance for us to call a timeout, adjust what we were doing a little bit, and we put on a trap and were able to get the game turned in our tempo. So the guys felt great and knew that they had one left.
And then Niles North, you were able to come away with a 3-point victory.
Yeah.
Very close game. But that did lead you guys to go 5-0 in your non-conference slate for Saturday games.
Yep.
What kind of accomplishment is that for this program?
We've never done that before. And I told the guys that is to not think, not to take it lightly, because we schedule really difficult non-conference games intentionally. And for us to do that, for the last 4 years, we've either gone 1-4 or 2-3 in those games. It's been 5 years since we finished over 500 in non-conference. And obviously Stevenson had a run there, Lions had a run there, Glenbrook North had a run there. I mean, so we're playing teams. Niles North was unbelievable. So we're playing teams that are constantly winning 20 games or more. And for us to be able to go in and win at Stevenson and win at Lions, you know, play Hinsdale Central and Niles North on those neutral courts and get wins on those, it was just it was a very special thing for these guys to accomplish. It's not their main objective, but it was a big part of what this team is about this year.
And one of the biggest contributors in those games had to be Michael Ritchie, who was named Daily Herald Player of the Week. He had absolute shooting. He's shooting a great percentage right now. What is it like to have Ritchie reemerge for this team before the playoff run?
Yeah, I mean that's the maturity. Michael's been up on the varsity since he was a sophomore. He's a perfect example of a young man in our program who's come up, trusted the process. You know, you ask him, dealt with high points, mid points, some low points, and has just stayed the course the whole way. You know, he dealt with an illness in the middle of January, and it took a week or two for him to get his legs back underneath him. And when it hit, started at Lions, continued at Elk Grove, and you know, he had 17 points and 13 rebounds against Niles North, and we needed every single one of them. And for him to just come in and play confidently, you know, a lot of people are talking surprised. I wasn't surprised at all. That's the type of person Michael is, the type of player he is. And it's another sign of just the next guy being ready to play when the game adjusts to that way.
And then, so far, 21-4 this season. Mm-hmm. Even if you guys were to say to lose to Hershey, lose in your West crossover, and then lose in the first regional game, you guys would still be 21-7, which would be your lowest loss total as a coach here at Prospect.
Yeah.
What kind of accomplishment is it for this team to be able to put on such a successful season so far, heading into the last part of it?
I think the idea of having vision, you know, and I think that goes all the way back to when we started watching this group of players as they were in junior high. As they started to come up through high school, you know, we moved a lot of them up and moved them around to try and give them as many opportunities as possible. This year in particular, you know, we take a couple of trips during the summer. You know, we went to Philadelphia, played at St. Joseph's University team camp back in June, and it's all about vision and these guys trying to get them in front of the best competition. You know, where we don't get into bad habits, where we are able to sort of galvanize who we are as a team, discover our identity. And it happened, and it's just a slow process that as we discover who we are, how we like to play, you know, we're able to keep our eyes on the prize, which is way out in front of us. But in doing so, we then seize each moment, and this team has done it as well as any team I've coached.
All right, thank you, Coach. We'll be back to preview this week's matchup against Hershey. Coming up is player guests Frankie Mack and Mark Wright.
Welcome back to Week 9 of Prospect Basketball Weekly. I'm your co-host, Jack Ankeny, and now we are joined by Prospect guard Mark Grice. So, Mark, it's good to have you on the show.
It's good to be here.
All right, so in a lot of games this year, you guys play 9 or 10 guys deep. How much an advantage do you think it is to have that kind of depth?
It's a big advantage, especially on the defensive end, because, you know, legs get tired on defense, and we like to pressure the ball a lot, so going 9 or 10 deep can help with the leg pressure.
All right, so How would you say you try to impact the game when you come in, maybe, and give a blow to like David Swedura, Frankie Mack, guys like that?
When I come in, it's not all about just going out and scoring or going out and getting a huge play. I try to go in, maybe set a hard screen on somebody, open somebody up, maybe get a big rebound or get a rebound and put back in the layup, or space out, hit a three here and there.
All right, so you guys haven't lost a game in 2017, a pretty impressive accomplishment. What would you say has contributed to that hot streak?
I think we're just buying into the process. One of the biggest things is we're executing the game plan that Coach Camardella and Coach Rathie have for us. The big thing is stop people on defense and execute on offense.
All right, so you transferred to Prospect a couple years ago from the Virgin Islands. How would you say you've made that transition the past couple years?
I think the transition's been good. Of course, there have been some rush patches in the beginning, but I think I'm taking it in stride right now, and everything's going pretty good.
How do you say the teammates have kind of helped you adjust to maybe like this brand of basketball, maybe opposed to how you guys maybe would play back there?
Yeah, there was a big adjustment. The movement's different. There's a lot more three shot, and the shooters here are very good, and players have definitely been helping me through that.
All right, so now looking ahead to the game on Friday, you guys play Hersey. How hungry would you say the team has been since losing that tough game back in December?
We're extremely hungry for that game again. We haven't lost a game in the East this year other than them, and we're not taking that lightly, and we really want them again.
All right, so obviously something that stands out about Hersey is their point guard, Joey Cafaro. What would you say will be key for you guys to do defensively to try to limit his production?
The key is just to be solid, focusing on the game plan, and we know that we may not hold him to 0 points, but we're going to limit him and do our best to get this win. All
right, what would you say is kind of the biggest key to execute on Friday against Hersey?
The biggest thing is just not overhyping it, but not underhyping it. We have to come out there, we have to be in attack mode, and we have to remember all the things we've learned.
All right, thanks, Mark. And next we'll be joined by Assistant Principal Frank Mirandol.
It's only like 4 or 5 minutes.
Welcome back to Week 9 of Prospect Basketball Weekly. I'm your co-host, Jack Ankeny, and now I'm joined by Assistant Principal Frank Mirandol. So, Mr. Mirandol, it's great to have you back.
I love being back here.
All right, so this year Prospect arguably has their biggest game of the season on Friday, playing Hersey. How have you been working with Prospect student section, the underground, or the U to kind of hype up this game?
Yeah, so we're in the process of going ahead and really communicating that out via social media, putting some stuff up in the hallways. I know the underground always loves the idea of crush the crush. For a long time, the Orange Crush has been was the staple of school spirit in District 214, and the underground has since taken that over, and so we take a lot of pride in being the best student section in the district and in the conference. And we're actually going to be meeting to kind of go through the final plans actually this morning to really kind of drum up support, drum up interest, and just ultimate hype for the game.
How important do you think it will be for Prospect to establish home court advantage in that game with the crowd?
Basketball is like one of those sports where probably more than anywhere else, home court advantage is a really big deal. From the player standpoint, comfortable rims, comfortable backdrop, all that stuff. But the players are so close to the floor where you have your student section amped up, jacked up for the game. It creates a pretty special atmosphere. And one of the cool things about high school sports is really that atmosphere of your peers sitting courtside, screaming, yelling, being very supportive in a very positive way, and really going ahead and creating that dynamic environment where this is Prospect. This is the Walker Fieldhouse. This is our place, and we're going to win.
All right, so in your years at Prospect, how would you say you've seen this specific basketball team kind of separate themselves from past teams?
It's a special team. There's no question about it. I mean, their record right now speaks for itself, but just the way they carry themselves, Jack, is really phenomenal. I mean, they believe, they're fearless in what they do. They believe in each other. They have great relationships. And those are really the intangibles that make great teams, period. It doesn't matter basketball, football, baseball, volleyball. It doesn't matter. So Coach Camardella, his staff, and the senior leadership has really done a nice job bringing this team together. And ultimately, it's paid dividends on the court. You see with their skill level that they've developed in the offseason and everything else that they're able to win a lot of basketball games.
All right. How would you say the atmosphere at Prospect, maybe like during school, kind of changes when everyone's kind of getting ready and excited for these games?
Yeah, basketball is one of those sports that kind of could drum up a lot of support in the school. In fact, that's where the underground started. It was about 8 years ago when we hosted the MSL championship game, like we potentially have the opportunity of doing if we win on Friday night, where we had an underground pep rally in the Commons. And free shirts, free food, and people came out. We had like 300-400 kids coming out, just jam packing the Gene Walker Fieldhouse. Dynamic atmosphere. It's pretty special. So having this type of game with Hersey coming up, and then maybe some bigger things come up with the regionals and everything else, it has an opportunity to really kind of transform a culture and excitement of a building.
Yeah, what would you say it would mean for Prospect to maybe win the MSL East Division or even make a far run in the playoffs?
Yeah, it's special. No matter what, making a run is a special thing, and it's pretty inspiring as an educator to watch kids that have invested so much time, energy, and emotion into chasing a goal, and then watching that goal to come to fruition, wherever that goal may be. And this team's putting itself in position to do that. There's no guarantees by no stretch of imagination. Other people have goals as well. But it's one of those things you control all the variables you can control, as coaches often talked about. And, it starts with that one step. It starts with a journey, and you go from there. And so, really, hopefully this is going to be the start of something special here in the next couple weeks.
All right, thanks, Mr. Mirandola. And now, next, Paul will be back with Coach Camardello to preview Friday's game.
The Denver Nuggets.
Welcome back to week 9 of Prospect Basketball Weekly, sponsored by Buffalo Wild Wings. I'm joined once again by Coach Carmodella. And, Coach, we have a big matchup against Hersey on Friday.
Sure do.
So, coming into this, obviously you've beaten every team in the East twice.
Mm-hmm.
Hersey's the only one that remains, and it was a loss in overtime at Hersey. How are you guys looking to come back at home this Friday?
Yeah, I mean, to just continue playing how we've played. Since that loss back in early December, we've only lost one other game. And our guys sort of returned to the fundamentals. They returned to ball movement. We've had virtually every single game we're in double digits in assists. And I think our pace of play has benefited us, as well as the spacing on the floor that we're able to maintain on offense. Something else that we focus a lot on, you've heard our players talk about it, is my assistant, Brad Rath, he talks a lot about defense. And in games that we're able to keep teams under 50 points, we're undefeated this year. And so that's something that we use sort of as markers of ways to not get too caught up in the emotions of the game, is to do things that are tangible, that are in front of us, that our guys can control. So we can control the spacing on the floor, and we can control how we're rotating on defense. So it's just focusing on that as we head into Friday.
Speaking of defense, obviously one of their better players is Joey Cafaro.
Mm-hmm.
How are you planning to stop him on Friday night?
Yeah, there's no stopping.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's fair to say. I have a lot of respect for Joey. He's one of the better guards that I've seen come through Hersey in my 10 years as head coach. And, he's got a lot of different tools. I think the part of this is a lot of our players know him. I think he knows a lot of our players. And it's important that we do our best to limit and contain. When you get into games like these, nobody ever completely shuts down someone else. So it's a matter of limiting clean opportunities and trying to keep people a little bit unbalanced.
And then in that first game, you had Grant Whitebloom on him eventually coming off the bench. He did a pretty good job on him. But also you've seen Grant Zelmer guarding some of the better guards and players on the other teams.
Yeah.
Who are you planning on going with? What kind of looks are you planning on sending his way?
Yeah, it'll be a mix. It'll be a mix. I mean, if you watch, the second through fourth quarters of that game, and I know they're scouting us, we're scouting them. So it's really going to come down to two neighborhood teams, two rivalry teams. I think two programs that have a lot of respect for each other. There'll be a lot thrown out. It should be a great atmosphere at Gene Walker here come Friday night.
With this game on Friday night, obviously you're fighting for the East Division title.
Mm-hmm.
How important is it for you guys to win this division this year?
Well, I think this year for our seniors, it's a chance to win the East. We've already clinched a share, but to win it outright on your home court, and to possibly host a conference championship. It's a very special thing that the Mid-Suburban League does, as well as any conference in the suburbs. And, we set a trend, and it rotates every other year. So it goes east-west, east-west. And in 2009, we were able to host it. 2011, we were able to host it. 2013, we were able to host it. But unfortunately, we lost the East in 2015. So it's been 4 years since we last hosted an MSL conference final. We played in it on the odd years where we had to go on the road. But you can ask players, you can ask staff members, to be able to host all 11 other MSL schools for a single 32-minute game with the conference championship on the line. It's one of the most special things you can ask for as a high school basketball coach.
And then looking forward to that game, obviously the players are focused on Hersey right now, but
Yeah.
how excited are they about the prospect to be able to play Friend for the chance to win a conference title if they win on Friday?
Yeah, we're not talking about it much, I'll be honest. They know it's at stake, and like I said, they have vision, but if you looked at how our guys are focused, if you come in and walk into our practice, they're talking a lot of orange and brown right now. So it's until that's done, the other thing, whatever the cliche is, it's on the back burner. You know, we know it's there. It's just we can't get there. You know, and it's you guys know that the stuff I teach, but the old Taoist line is that the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And so for us, we can't get to where we want to go until we take the next step, and that'll be Friday night.
All right. Thank you, Coach.
Yep.
Good luck on Friday night.
Thanks.
This has been Week 9 of Prospect Basketball Weekly. I'm your host, Paul Evers, and for my co-host, Jack Ankeny, thank you, and we'll see you next week.